We're doing top 10 giant movie monsters, but I'm going to add some rules to this list before we get going. Number 1 and number 2 are Godzilla and King Kong, so I've decided to exclude them from the list. So this is the top 10 giant movie monsters excluding Godzilla and King Kong. I'm also doing a 1 per franchise rule, and since Godzilla and Kong are number 1, you won't be seeing any monsters from the Godzilla universe on here, because frankly, Toho just has it down. Like, there are a litany of the best monsters ever made in the Godzilla franchise alone. Like, Mechagodzilla would top the list, King Ghidorah would be near the top of the list, Gigan, Megalon, Desitroya. Like, there's so many monsters from the Godzilla series that this list would just be boring. So no monsters from the Godzilla universe. Keep in mind that this 10 is going to be really 12 through 3, 3 being the number 1 spot. I'm making this as confusing as possible for no fucking reason other than keep in mind that the number 1 spot is not actually my favorite giant monster from a movie, because that would belong to Godzilla. And if we're excluding Godzilla, then that would be Mechagodzilla or King Ghidorah or somebody. If I thought about it, I'd have a more concrete answer. But I'm excluding monsters from that series in general because I want this list to be somewhat unique. So here are the top 10 giant movie monsters with those rules in mind. And before we get going, I want to also give an honorable mention to some monsters from TV shows, because this is movie monsters, so you won't see the likes of King Bub's Gonzola in here, or any of the monsters from Ultraman, or any of those kaiju shows. The animated Godzilla based on the terrible Matthew Broderick movie, that's actually a good show, and I like the monster in that. So here we go, starting off at number 10, the Stay Puft Marshmallow Man from Ghostbusters. When I was a kid, this blew my fucking mind. I thought it was so funny. I still think it's really funny. Moving on to number 9, we're going quick here. Dagora from Dagora. Dogora. Dogora. Dagora. Dogora. Purely because of the design. The movie itself is actually pretty boring and on the lower end as far as Toho standards go. And yes, technically this monster kind of made a cameo in a Godzilla movie, but it's never been a featured monster in the Godzilla franchise, so I'm deciding to count it. And I just really like how creepy and almost Lovecraftian this monster looks. It looks really uncanny, and there's something really creepy about it that I just enjoy. I remember reading like books from the library that would have giant monster stuff in it, or the early internet, and seeing pictures of this and really wanting to see the movie just because of how creepy the monster looked. And I was trying to imagine how it would interact with buildings and how it would interact with maybe another monster. Unfortunately, the movie disappointed when I saw it years later, but the design of the monster itself, I still find really cool. Jumping on over to number 8, Pulgasari. I just did a review of his movie, so check that out. This is a North Korean monster, and I just like the design. I like that it grew over the course of the film. He's got a funny gaze, like look at those eyes. Number 7, Reptilicus. Reptilicus is a Danish monster who spits green ooze, green acid. There's a deleted scene where he flies, which, why the fuck did you cut that? You're making a movie about a green ooze spitting giant reptilian dinosaur destroying Denmark, and you decide to cut the flying scene because it was too unrealistic? Fucking shame. The monster is a puppet. I think he's probably the only puppet on the list. Everybody else is guys in suits or stop motion animation. He's kind of unique as far as monsters on this list is gonna go, because he's very serpenty. He's very long and snake-like. He's kind of similar to the Toho monster Manda, but Manda didn't make the fucking list. He's got a great roar and a great title/name. Number 6, Clover. Clover's appeared in 2 films, Cloverfield and The Cloverfield Paradox, although much less so in the latter film. The reason I like this monster is because less is more. You get a real sense of fear with this guy, largely because you don't know what you're up against the entire movie. Lots of giant monster movies give you the courtesy of showing lots of wide shots, showing them walking around, you get that full shot, which you kind of do in this, but the found footage helps keep it more mysterious, so I like the mysterious aspect of this monster. I mean, we all know what he looks like now. There's been tons of promotional photos and stuff out, and Clover's also inspired a slew of ripoffs from his own pseudo-creator himself, J.J. Abrams, using a very similar design in his movie Super 8 to the Mutos in the Godzilla films. It seemed that every monster after Cloverfield was borrowing the Cloverfield monster's design. Number 5, the Beast from 20,000 Fathoms. The beast predates Godzilla and is the first stop-motion monster to make the list. I think it's safe to say that the beast is a proto-Godzilla monster. It's reptilian, dinosaur-like, and the movie's just great. The stop-motion animation is fantastic. I love stop-motion. I think there's just something inherently appealing about it. That handcrafted nature of the art is something that I think is impressive to just about anybody. The monster design is cool. I like it when he eats people, but he's not my favorite Ray Harryhausen monster. No, that would be number 4, Ymir, the monster from 20 Million Miles to Earth. This alien stop-motion monster, which is also created by Ray Harryhausen, I think it only beats the Beast in my mind because it's a more unique monster as time has gone on. It's aged better. The Beast from 20,000 Fathoms, like I said, could be described as a proto-Godzilla. We've seen tons of movies that kind of borrow and are inspired by the design of that film. Whereas this monster from 20 Million Miles to Earth has kind of stayed unique. I haven't seen really anything that looks like Ymir. Monster from 20 Million Miles to Earth, the creature as they refer to it occasionally in the movie, earns the number 4 spot on this list. 3, X from Outer Space. This Japanese giant monster makes the list 100% because of how fucking weird he looks. Look at this guy's face. Look at his hips. He's thick. I just think that this is a fun-looking monster. It's not very intimidating. It's not scary in the slightest. The movie it's in is pretty good. It's got some pretty great practical special effects. But the monster is ridiculous, and that's why it's in the number 3 spot, just because of how memorable it is and how wild it is. Number 2, Gamera. Now, I wouldn't have been surprised if some people thought Gamera was going to be in the number 1 spot, considering Godzilla and Kong, didn't make the list purely because of it's not fair of how good they are. But no, Gamera is going to be in the number 2 spot here. And I love Gamera. I think Gamera is a great monster. It's an iconic monster. It's got a great selection of powers and abilities. It's got a good design. It's like a turtle dragon. The monster itself has had some very fun and iconic scenes for giant monster fans. Gamera is a classic and has some of the best kaiju movies in its franchise, especially in their Heisei series, which is their second series. That trilogy of movies is fantastic. And now the number 1 spot. So who beats Gamera as far as non-Godzilla and Kong monsters go? Well, it is a giant ape, and it's Ape. Ape from the movie Ape. And there's one scene that made this monster be in the number 1 spot. Here it is. Thanks for watching.